Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John. Today we're in John chapter 6. We're looking at verses 7 through 13. This gives us the account of the fourth miracle, the fourth sign that the Gospel of John wants to emphasize in telling us the story of Jesus. And this miracle is the feeding of the multitude. Now we recall from yesterday's session that Jesus has returned to Galilee, and he's gone to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. This is a less populated region and a more Gentile area. It seems he wanted almost a retreat time with his disciples, but a large crowd follows. His fame is spreading. The miracles are being reported. People are coming to hear and to see. And so a large crowd follows Jesus into this remote type of area, away from a population center. And so it presents a logistical problem of how do we feed all these people? How do we provide for their meal? And that sets the scene for this fourth miracle sign John is going to tell us about. So let's begin reading John chapter 6 at verse 7. Now when Jesus looked up, he saw a great crowd coming toward him. He said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for all these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. These verses set the scene for what we want to see. Jesus asked Philip, one of the disciples, "How are we going to feed these folks?" But he knew what he's going to do. He's just testing Jesus. Now we get to the miracle part. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half the year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Philip is sort of an accountant. He quickly calculates how much money it would take. It would take about half a year's wages. We don't have that kind of money. Another of the disciples, Simon Peter's brother Andrew, spoke up and said, "Well, here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" So Philip saw the accounting problem. We don't have nearly enough resources to buy enough food. Andrew says, "Well, we got this little boy here who's volunteered his lunch. He's got 5 barley loaves, small, 2 fish, both small, but we've got a multitude here. What are we going to do?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place. They all sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Now it emphasizes 5,000 men. That's just the men. The word here is male. So there's 5,000 men, but there's also women, there's also children. This is a huge crowd, perhaps over 10,000 people. Jesus took the loaves, that's the 5 barley loaves, the 2 fish. He took the loaves, he gave thanks, and he distributed to those who were seated, and each person got as much as they wanted. He did the same with fish. When they all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them up. They filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that were left over by those who had eaten. So Jesus feeds this entire multitude, thousands of people, with 5 loaves of bread and 2 very small fish. His disciples distributed the food. That would have gone to about 1 person, right? But somehow the food kept multiplying. Everyone ate. Everyone was satisfied. Everyone was full. And there were leftovers. 12 baskets of leftovers. What a miracle. Now it's interesting that of all the miracles Jesus performed, only one is reported in all 4 Gospels. All 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all report this miracle of the feeding of the multitude. It is the one miracle that they all tell us about because it is so significant. Jesus feeds us. Now, as with all the miracles of Jesus, it is a sign to point to something greater. It is a symbol of who Jesus really is. He is the Lord, and he provides food for our soul, nourishment for our body, but not only for our body and soul, but our emotions and our spirit. He feeds us with everything we need, and he is able to provide. No matter how great the need, he is able to provide. Jesus is always feeding us with what we need. Now we're going to see in the next sessions to come that the crowd immediately begins to think about Moses and how God provided the manna in the wilderness. when Moses was leading the children to the promised land. They're going to remember how God gave them bread in the wilderness. And here they are in sort of a wilderness region, and they are being provided bread in abundance. Is this one like Moses? Someone like Moses? Is he perhaps the one who is to come? You see, this miracle points to Jesus. Remember, Moses said, there will be a prophet like unto me who will come. That was a messianic prophecy. And so some are beginning to perceive he is the Messiah because he provides bread for our lives. We feast on the heavenly bread that Jesus provides. Amen and amen. Join us tomorrow. We'll continue looking at this miracle in our 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John.